Hi, I'm Linda Zeilina, the founder and CEO of International Sustainable Finance Center. Today, we will talk about ESG, environmental, social and governance investing, and why it has the potential to transform economies and finance. ESG done right. Is it possible? Does it have the potential to transform economies and the financial sector? So lately we have seen a lot of backlash against ESG investing and ESG funds. We saw the expose by The Economist in July this year talking about the alphabet soup. Lots of different ways of measuring, lots of different ways of doing ESG investing. On top of that, we're also seeing a lot of political polarization in terms of, for example, Texas and Florida trying to actually act against ESG investing and mandating their companies not to support such efforts. Let's actually dig in deeper. So why is this backlash happening? Well, it's happening because currently all of the ESG ratings are very inconsistent. They don't have the same correlation as financial and credit ratings. Why is this happening? Well, currently ESG rating agencies can measure different things and employ different methodologies, none of which are transparent and can be publicly scrutinized. All of these ratings are also based on single materiality. That means they're based on ESG risks to the company, rather than the company's impact on the real world. This results in Tesla rating lower than ExxonMobil. This is a real problem, because what happens is that we are currently not pricing in negative externalities, which is the negative impact that companies can have on society or environment. To price this correctly, we need to understand better how actually we are currently mispricing externalities, which are environmental, natural capital, and social capital impacts. The change that we need and where we can actually see a systemic change if we together try and actually rethink how we think about impact. In the 1950s, risk became a dominant issue where actually Chicago University looked into how do you measure risk. Back in the day, investors thought about risk, but they weren't quite sure how to measure it and how to create the different types of methodologies, how to assess risk. Well, nowadays, if you talk to any investor, of course they use a risk-return matrix. That is just a good standard of how we operate. So what we need now is to move from risk-return to risk-return and impact. Sir Ronald Cohen has argued that this kind of a change can lead to better pricing of companies and also realignment of our financial flows. Because currently, our financial flows still enable growth of emissions despite of the multitude of different ESG funds, different sustainability-linked debt instruments. A lot of people despair because this is a complex issue. We have so many indicators, we have so many different approaches. But when you actually think about the fundamentals, we do have much better understanding of impact. We also understand much better how financial systems work. So now we need to do the homework and analyze what has been done right and what has been done wrong this far. What has been done wrong? Well, everything that we have in terms of standards, whether it's green bond standards or ESG investing labels, have all been voluntary. This is an issue because if it is voluntary, it is not often audited. It does not comply with mandatory standards and criteria. This allows a lot of inventiveness in terms of how you label and how you move money around to argue that you are ESG aligned. However, the matrix thinking in environmental, social, and governance indicators is actually very clear. It's clear to understand. It is very easy to link concrete indicators, numerical indicators under the E, under the S, and under the G. Once you create these numerical indicators, you can overlay them with qualitative ones as well if you wish. However, if you create them and then make them mandatory, you actually improve the disclosure. Then you also need to integrate policy and regulation and supervisory activities, because unless you will reward business models that try to avoid negative impact. So for example, if there's a company that actually has positive impact and has almost no negative impact, it should have easier financing. The policy incentive should be there to support their growth. Meanwhile, if a company is a great polluter that doesn't allow us to achieve our climate goals and has very negative externalities, policy, regulation, and supervisory activity should actually punish and penalize that and make it mandatory. Only that way we can actually drive positive change and reach EU's and also the global goals to be Paris Agreement aligned and not have an overheating planet.